mayo. Ndinokumbira kuti muchigare pasi titange meeting yedu. ZanuPf oye! Makaneta neta. ZanuPf oye! President Mnangagwa oye! 2023. Women's League oye! Pasi pasi newatengesi. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Commander-in-Chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, and the First Secretary of ZanuPf, Dr. Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, and Amai Dr. Auxilia Mnangagwa in absentia. Honorable Vice President and Minister of Health and Child Care, and Second Secretary of ZanuPf, retired General Dr. Constantino Dominic Gouveia Nyikadzino Chiwenga. Honorable Vice President and Second Secretary of ZanuPf, retired Colonel Honorable Kembo Campbell Dugish Mohadi. Secretary for Administration, Comrade Obed Mpofu, in absentia. I recognize the Secretary for Finance, Comrade Chinamasa, who is standing in for Dr. Mpofu. The Secretary for Women's League and President of the Senate, Madam Mabel Chinomona. Politburo members here present, Central Committee members, members of the new Women's League Executive, ministers and deputy ministers, members of Parliament, members of Chiefs Council, members of the Diplomatic Corps, veterans of the liberation struggle, all invited guests, and all our esteemed delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you all to the second and our last day of the 7th Women's League Conference. Comrades and friends, we had very fruitful deliberations yesterday. If you may allow me just to do a recap of programs that make up our conference agenda and the items that we were able to complete yesterday. The first item was to receive and adopt the keynote address by His Excellency the President and First Secretary, Comrade Dr. Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa. Tinoda kutenda speech iyoyo yakaitwa adopted as a conference lead document. The second item was to receive and adopt the Women's League report to the 7th National Women's League Conference by the Secretary for the Women's Affairs, Comrade Chinomona. And also this report was adopted. Well done. The third item on our agenda was to receive solidarity messages from women's organizations and from ZanuPf Women's League Conference districts in the diaspora. Takatopedza zvenezuro ngati zviomberere. Lastly, Your Excellency, yesterday we had a closed session which was followed or presided by our political commissar. This was the item on elections. I was advised yesterday by the political commissar that the elections went very well. As always, our tradition as ZanuPf, the elections were democratic, peaceful, and very fair. And women were very happy. It is now my singular honor, Your Excellency, to invite Dr. Bima, who presided over the National Women's League executive elections, to present his elections report. Dr. Bima.
Pamberimberi ne ZanuPf. Pamberimberi ne ZanuPf. Phambili lokubambana. Phambili lokubambana. Unembo awujatana. Unembo awujatana. Vamunangagwa woye. Madzimai woye. Pasi pasi nema sanctions. Thank you. Your Excellency, the President and First Secretary of ZanuPf, Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, the First Lady, Dr. Auxilia Mnangagwa in absentia, Honorable Vice President and Second Secretary, Comrade Dr. General Retired CGDN Chiwenga, Honorable Vice President and Second Secretary, Comrade Colonel Retired Honorable KCD Muhadi, our National Chairman, Comrade OCZ Muchinguri Kashiri, the Secretary for Administration, Comrade Dr. Mpofu in absentia, represented here by the Secretary for Finance, Comrade Chinamasa, Secretary for Women's Affairs, Comrade Honorable M.M. Chinomona, Politburo and Central Committee members here present, delegates to the conference, comrades and friends. Your Excellency, allow me to welcome everyone here present. Your Excellency, I'm greatly honored to present to this 7th Women's League National Conference a report of the election process which ushered in a new national leadership for the Women's League yesterday. Your Excellency, the elections were held following guidelines from the Commissariat Department. The election process started at administrative district level, with each admin district requested to elect one member who would contest in the provincial elections. Teams led by Women Central Committee members were deployed in all the provinces to superintend and preside over the elections. As a result, each province was required to elect 4 members, ranked from number 1 to 4, according to the number of votes garnered. This process, right from the admin districts, went on smoothly. Your Excellency, the Commissariat Department would like to commend the Central Committee members and party staff for the sterling work they did in conducting the whole election process. Yesterday afternoon, the 40 members that had been elected to take up positions in the National Women's League Executive Council met and reached consensus on the election and allocation of posts. Once again, I would like to thank the Women's League for exhibiting a high level of professionalism and maturity, and I want to believe that this will continue. Your Excellency, may I now present the winning candidates, their provinces, and their positions. But let me use this opportunity to appeal to those 40 members that what is important is not the positions that they now hold, but the work that they've been elected to do for the party. So let us not look at positions, but let us say to ourselves that we have been given the opportunity to contribute immensely to the success of the party. The new National Women's League executive should realize that the work before us is to win the elections next year. Your Excellency, may I appeal to everyone that all of us must work extra hard for the party to succeed. Munwese Mundima. Your Excellency, I will now present those who have been successful in the elections. And I will start with the deputies. And when I call your name, can you please come forward? So that when I finish, we'll be asking you to come up and get a blessing from the leadership. Deputy Secretary for Administration, Juliet Hungoidza from Masvingo. Deputy Secretary for Finance, Comrade Ruth Kabichi from Matabeleland North. Deputy Secretary for Commissariat, Mashonaland West, Comrade Mary Stella Boni. Deputy Secretary for External Relations, Bulawayo Province, Comrade Rebecca Manjere. Deputy Secretary for Security, Mat South, Comrade Sipo Moyo. Deputy Secretary for Security, Deputy Secretary for Transport and Social Welfare, Mashonaland East, Martha Mudiwa Kure. Deputy Secretary for Information and Publicity, Midlands, Comrade Jennifer Shumba. Deputy Secretary for Legal Affairs and Women's Rights, Manicaland Province, Comrade Ivy Mushanga. Deputy Secretary for Indigenization and Economic Empowerment, Mashonaland Central, Comrade Klausi Muzariri. Deputy Secretary for Production and Labor, Midlands Province, Comrade Talita Nyahondo. Deputy Secretary for Health and Child Welfare, Harare Province, Comrade Alice Manjea. Deputy Secretary for Economic Affairs, Masvingo Province, Comrade Janet Mudzingwa. Deputy Secretary for Education, Manicaland Province, Comrade Teresa Nyapokoto. Deputy Secretary for Gender and Culture, Harare Province, Comrade Munyawiri Aruandi Baya. Deputy Secretary for Welfare of the Disabled and Disadvantaged Persons, Matabeleland South, Comrade Sipilisiwe Nawira. Deputy Secretary for Land Reform and Resettlement, Mashonaland West, Comrade Christine Nyere. Deputy Secretary for Science and Technology, Bulawayo Province, Comrade Rose Jerengwa. Deputy Secretary for Business Development and Liaison, Mashonaland East, Comrade Mary Jonasi. Deputy Secretary for Environment and Tourism, Mashonaland Central, Comrade Maudi Chigwida. Your Excellency, these are the deputy secretaries who were elected, and with your permission, I would ask them to come up front and be. Vasikana hanzi chiuyai muzokwazisa vakuru. Thank you very much. Can I ask you to take up your positions? The national chair will announce at a later time for you to come for a photo shoot with His Excellency. But for now, can you take up your positions? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Your Excellency, I will now move to announce the heads of department of the Women's League National Executive. Can I just also point that the position of Secretary for Women's Affairs is not for elections. That position comes as a result of the appointment by His Excellency the President. And currently, our Secretary for Women's Affairs is Comrade Mabel Memory Chinomona. Thank you. The positions that are here announced are those which were subject to elections. Deputy Secretary, Bulawayo Province, Comrade Angeline Masuku. Secretary for Administration, Comrade Monica Mchangwa, Manicaland. Secretary for Finance, Comrade Caroline Tsitsimugabe of Mashonaland West. Secretary for Commissariat, Comrade May Bimboa of Midlands. Secretary for External Relations, Comrade Betty Kaseke of Harare. Secretary, can we all listen to this? Secretary for Security, Comrade Anna Rungani Mashingo. Secretary for Transport and Social Welfare, Comrade Musa Nule of Mats North. Secretary for Information and Publicity, Mashonaland East, Lucy Mudzingwa. Secretary for Legal Affairs and Women's Rights, Comrade Cecilia Bebe Ndubiwa, Matebeleland South. Secretary for Indigenization and Economic Empowerment, Comrade Dorothy Mashonganyika, Mashonaland Central. Secretary for Production and Labor, Bulawayo, Comrade Maide Impala. Secretary for Health and Child Welfare, Betha Chinyanga, Mashonaland East. Secretary for Economic Affairs, Mat South, Comrade Kulule Nleya. Kululeko Nleya. Secretary for Education, Mashonaland Central, Comrade Catherine Chirongwe. Secretary for Gender and Culture, Mashonaland West, Jennifer Mutlanga. Secretary for Welfare of the Disabled and Disadvantaged Persons, Manikaland, Comrade Kerenia Uta Chimuso. Secretary for Land Reform and Resettlement, Comrade Berita Chikwama of Masvingo. Secretary for Science and Technology, Midlands, Comrade Florence Kumalo. Secretary for Business Development and Liaison, Harare, Comrade Nyasha Eunice Chikwinya. Secretary for Tourism, Matebelele North, Comrade Sipiwe Mafua. And last but not least is our committee member from Matebeleland North, Comrade Tony Sibanda. Thank you. Can I also request that you come forward in a single file to come and greet the leadership up front here?
zvifarirwa
mberi neZanuPf. Mberi neZanuPf. Mberi nokubatana. Mberi nokuwina ma-elections. Pasi nemandu. Now I would like to announce that now that you have received blessing from the leadership, that the ZanuPf Women's League National Executive Council 2022 to 2027 is duly elected. Your Excellency, I thank you. I now hand over to the National Chairman. Thank you.
ZanuPf oye! ZanuPf oye! Pamberi nekuwina ma-elections. Women's League oye! Pasi nenoizi. Pasi nenoizi. Ndinoda kutora nguva ino kutenda tete wemusangano wakaita basa rinodadisa, basa rine runyararo, basa rafadza ruzhinji. Tinoda kuvatenda. Tichikorokotedzesawo wawina, tichipembedzawo wakanga waripo, nekuwawishawo zvakanaka kumabasa aivachaita mamwe emusangano. Asiwo wapinda basa ratanga, vanhu vane ma-expectations kwamuri. Ndinodaira kuti hamuzoonekwi 5 years pasinawo zvaitika. Ndinoda kukutendai nekukorokotedzesai. Tava kuenda muchikamu chinoteera paprogramu yedu, agenda, pari kutaura kuti tichapiwa ma-resolutions e-conference. Ma-resolutions, Your Excellency, anonakidza musangano medu nekuti akabva pasi kune vanhu kuma-districts achikwira kusvika pa-province. It's bottom top process yakatorwa kutora zvido zvevanhu zvichisviswa paprovince, vachizvibatanidza kubva kuma-districts zvichizoguma zvava pa-national. Wakaita basa guru rekuti ma-resolutions aitwe pamwe. Since it's an elective conference, hakuna nguva yakavapo takabvumirana kuti hatidiscussi ma-resolutions aya. Saka ndibvumirei kuti ndisimudze wachangoburwa Secretary for Legal Affairs kuti auye pamberi apresente ma-conference resolutions. Zita handina kunga ndaribata, ndine urombo, ndaferawo ipapo. Sunungukai mazvita.
three. Abangaziyo? Basingazibe? I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Cecilia Bebe Tuviwa, Secretary for Legal Affairs, representing Matabeleland South. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe and the First Secretary for ZanuPf, Dr. Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, Dr. Auxilia Mnangagwa, in absentia, the Vice President and Second Secretary for ZanuPf, retired General Dr. C.G.D.N. Chiwenga, Vice President and Second Secretary for ZanuPf, retired Colonel K.C.D. Mohadi, National Chairman, OCZ Mushinguri Kashiri, Secretary for Women's League, Comrade Mabu Memory Chinomona. All protocol is observed. Your Excellency, the 7th ZanuPf Women's League Conference resolutions addressed the following thematic areas: the state of the party, women participation in party affairs, agriculture and food security, state of the economy and women participation, social services, health and poverty eradication, women participation in mining, infrastructure development and devolution, religion, culture and liberation war heritage. In terms of Section 149 of the party constitution, the Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front Women's League met at the Harare International Conference Center to hold its 7th National Women's League Conference from the 23rd to the 26th of June 2022. Therefore, the Women's League deliberations at the conference were guided by taking into consideration the Women's League as an integral wing of the party. The women who constitute in the majority remain staunch supporters and continue to exert dominance over opposition political parties. Due to consistency and steadfast pursuit of total political and socio-economic empowerment, emancipation of women, concern has been highlighted, Your Excellency, over the plight of women who are continually subjected to marginalization and exploitation. We are determined, Your Excellency, to continually create opportunities for women as well as the promotion of women's rights and the girl child. The vision of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Comrade Dr. Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, of moving the country into an empowered upper middle income economy by 2030 through a people-centered government policies and programs entrenched at the advent of the new dispensation, catapulted through an array of policy interventions put in place to grow and develop Zimbabwe's economy. Now, therefore, conference resolved that the President and the First Secretary of ZanuPf, Ubaba Comrade Dr. Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, be the party's sole presidential candidate for the forthcoming harmonized elections for the forthcoming harmonized elections in 2023. The state of the party, that all structures of the party should earnestly and meticulously prepare for a resounding victory in the forthcoming harmonized elections. That the party religiously enforces guidelines for the selection of party candidates for the conduct of any party election, to promote free and fair primary elections in the spirit of the founding principles of ZanuPf, and to prohibit the imposition of candidates. The Women's League believed that there is no place for imposition and vote buying. That the party revives and develops a cadetship policy that nurtures a broad human resource base for deployment by the party, and to introduce structured compulsory ideological programs, e.g. Chitepo Ideological College. That the party develops innovative and effective mobilization strategies to attract and maintain the Women's League, including encouraging organizations and associations for the young professional and other special interest groups to affiliate with ZanuPf. That the party makes provisions for the adequate funding of Women's League programs. That the party facilitate and capacitation of women elected into leadership positions so that they are better and able to execute their duties. That the party discourages the use of money as opposed to ideology and popular vote to ascend ranks within the party. That the needs of the disabled and disadvantaged be considered at all times, both as a social issue and more as a developmental matter. That the national deputy secretaries in the Women's League be considered become members of the National Consultative Assembly upon completion of their term. That all party primary elections be held well before the harmonized elections in order to afford our people time to reconcile on time, so as to avoid disunity. That the process of conflict resolution after any party election be undertaken to reconcile cadres. That the party ensures authentic structures at all levels, which must be routinely audited. That the party utilizes local talent and resources to identify projects for income generating and employment creation for the benefit of the party, Women's League, since women occupy the lion's share of the population, demographic divided. That the party disciplines party members who promote factionalism, corruption, electoral fraud, and any other acts that are contrary to the party's vision, ideology, and constitution. That the party directs government to speed up the land audit and gazette women's quota for land allocation, and ensure that women are represented in all land committees within the party and the government. That the Chitepo School of Ideology be decentralized in order to capture first-time voters through ideological orientation at grassroots level. That the party implores the government to make sure they avail more capital so they can accommodate more small businesses and prioritize recapitalization of existing businesses facing challenges. That the party's Women's League considers the issue of sanitary wear with a view of ensuring free distribution of sanitary wear to women. Your Excellency, our next item looked at the women participation in party affairs. Applaud outstanding performance by His Excellency the President and First Secretary of ZanuPf, Comrade Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, in driving the economic development agenda of the country. That the party directs government to perpetuate its policy of placing aptly qualified women in influential positions. That all religious sects and cultural customs conform to the Constitution to safeguard the rights of women and the girl child. That the party reaffirms the commitment to gender equality as enshrined in the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Gender Responsive Budgeting Strategy. That government invest in the capacity building of women through the provision of well-resourced business training centers across the country to empower women to develop and implement bankable projects and businesses. That the party take a firm position against gender-based violence in all its forms as it is affecting the participation of women, particularly in politics. Our next theme addressed food security, nutrition, and agriculture. That the party ensure that women are involved in production through farming as well as related activities. That the party directs government to follow up increased food production with correlating adequate storage capacity for the grains agriculture. That the party honors its elderly party members who have been active in the party and have attained the age of 70 years and above by issuing them with special honorary and free party cards. That the party promotes value addition in agriculture sector, starting from the homestead level up to the big farms. For example, oil processing machines, fruit processing and drying machines for women groups and individuals. That the party champions the employment of women as agricultural extension officers, vanamdomain. That the party implores government to control input prices. That the resuscitation of irrigation schemes be extended to involve A1 and rural farmers. That the party directs that loans to farmers be flexible and affordable even to the less privileged and also to stretch to rural areas. That women be allocated land in their own right, or alternatively, the land be allocated jointly to spouses. That government should prioritize the provision of agricultural subsidies to all farmers, taking special cognizance of the elderly, widows, disabled, and caregivers of orphans and other vulnerable groups. To urge government to assist women farmers with appropriate technology in the production, processing, and value addition. to call on the relevant government institutions to promote and capacitate farmers to produce and process small grains. That the party directs the government to have livestock vaccines on time for seasonal outbreaks of diseases, while also doing research into new and emerging diseases, so that preemptive action can be taken to avert livestock loss. That the party directs government to intervene on pricing of basic commodities in shops, one price for all. To have awareness programs on climate change. That the party champions the allocation of fishing permits and agricultural land to women in their own right, which allows them to become major players in the tourism sector in order for them to be economically empowered. To call upon government to intensify training of farmers, especially women, through a deliberate training program, province by province, district by district, ward by ward. To appeal to government to capacitate agri-tech personnel to train farmers in new farming technologies and farming systems that will ensure farmers cope and adapt to the effects of climate change. Your Excellency, the next item will address the state of the economy and women participation. That the party continually works towards eliminating discriminatory attitudes and practices against women and girls. Under social services, women health and poverty eradication, noting with concern, Your Excellency, the delay associated with provision of health and facilities in the resettlement areas and general absence of internet facilities in the rural areas. That the party motivates government to increase food support to vulnerable members of the society, particularly in the face of climate change and COVID-19 fund. That the party continues working towards the realization of 50-50 gender representation in all decision-making institutions, and for the ZanuPf constitution to be aligned to the national constitution. That the party affirms the importance of free health care, access for chronic elements, and the enforcement of policy on free material health care. That the party continues to direct government to contain the COVID-19 pandemic through vaccination programs and other measures as a way of minimizing infections and deaths in the country. That there be more government-run schools in resettlement areas, and that the general welfare of rural teachers be looked into. That the education for the disabled and those with special needs be looked into as well. That the welfare of the elderly and disabled be prioritized in terms of their health, food, and general welfare. That the rules for obtaining birth certificate, passports, and identity cards be made easier, e.g., hospitals should be able to issue birth certificate upon birth of a child. That the program of having solar piped water schemes in every village so that there is tap water in every homestead by 2030. That the party engages government to establish health posts in all villages in order for women and children not to walk long distances to access health facilities. That sanitary wear and other essentials be given free to all girl children. That the party engages government to unveil cancer screening facilities in all local clinics and that persons from poor backgrounds be treated for free. To urge government to compel social service providers to be more sensitive to client needs and instruct all public institutions to display and adhere to client service charters. That government implement measures to train, attract, and retain specialist skills in the public sector. To call on government to speed up the construction of provinces' vocational centers in every district with a bias towards resource endowments of the area. That government periodically reviews policies and legislation which relates to inheritance and succession to curb rampant disenfranchisement of women and children. Our next thematic area addresses women participation in mining, Your Excellency. That the party reaffirms the need to ensure that women get mining claims. That the party takes the lead in empowering women in the mining sector through receiving relevant training. To call for the establishment of a quota system to facilitate the acquisition of shares by women through mining. That the party should task the Ministry of Women's Affairs to timeously disseminate project funds in a transparent manner through relevant party structures. Our next area is infrastructure development and devolution. That women should be involved in infrastructure development projects, from small projects in rural areas to major projects in cities and towns. That the party, through government, engages ZESA to install electricity in clinics and schools to promote e-learning. To urge government to accelerate value addition to rural life through upgrading infrastructure such as road networking, rural electrification, water and sanitation in order to support the growing mining and agricultural sectors. That the party, through government, ensures that competent management is in place in order to ensure the highest optimization of ZUPCO. That the party directs government continue the good work in supporting women's housing projects, as this will benefit women while bringing Zimbabwe closer to Vision 2030. The next theme is on religion, culture, and liberation war heritage. The party applauds the government for the enactment of the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle Act, which aims at improving the welfare of the veterans of the liberation struggle. That the party directs government to stop eviction and victimization of spouses and children of late veterans of the liberation struggle. As this has been seen in the eviction of the bereaved families from houses acquired by their late parents. That there be continued dialogue addressing any future areas of concern, such as the need to broaden the scope of the 20% quota allocated to the veterans in the land reform program. That the party undertakes to hold educational tours routinely, for example, visit to the shrines in Mozambique, Tanzania, and Zambia, in remembrance of our heroes and heroines. That the party takes a leading role in promoting religion as part of our culture and liberation heritage, as this will serve as the backbone of Ubuntu, Unuwedu, how we live as individuals and how we relate with others. That society must uphold the principle of non-discrimination on any basis whatsoever. On sport, the Women's League calls upon government to ensure that equal participation of boys and girls in sport at grassroots level and urge parents to support the involvement of their children in sporting activities. That government should be at the forefront in the development of sporting infrastructure at community and district level. On arts and culture, Your Excellency, to encourage women to take a leading role in enhancing unity through teaching children in the spirit of Ubuntu, promoting love and respect at family level, and for the party to direct government to spearhead such programs which will promote the national cultural values, norms, and traditions which are constructive. That government undertakes programs to assist in the awareness and preservation of historical heritage sites. That government should urge Zimbabweans to respect and uphold the role of traditional institutions as enshrined in the Zimbabwean Constitution. On religion, to urge government to invest towards research on traditional and foreign religion with a view to promote a balanced and informed appreciation of citizens. In conclusion, Your Excellency, women extend their gratitude to our iconic leader, the President and the First Secretary of our party, ZanuPf, Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, for providing the entire nation of Zimbabwe with a brand of insightful, astute, and clear-sighted leadership, re-engagement and engagement mantra, which has become the envy of many across the world. The women of Zimbabwe are confident that under his stewardship, regional integration will be accelerated and the region will be economically transformed for the benefit and advancement of the interest of women and children. Dear comrade delegates, the Women's League extends gratitude to all ZanuPf affiliates and regional sister liberation movements, solidarity movements, and friends of ZanuPf for standing together with us through the challenging times of the illegally imposed sanctions. Your continued solidarity humbles us as the Women's League. The 7th National Women's League Conference congratulates the newly elected members of the National Executive Council. The conference further applauds delegates for the peaceful environment which characterized the entire conference and demonstrated the exceptionally high level maturity among women in the party. As already mentioned, the party wishes successful candidates a productive tenure through their offices. The Women's League will continue to take bold and clear initiative meant to convince the women and the whole electorate that ZanuPf is the party of choice. The Women's League delegates to the 7th National Women's League Conference extend sincere gratitude to the President and the First Secretary, Comrade Dr. Edie Mnangagwa, the First Lady, Indlovukazi yethu, Dr. Auxilia Mnangagwa in absentia, and well-wishers for their benevolence in extending timely donations to ensure the resounding success of the conference. Your Excellency, I thank you.
ZanuPf, oye! My resolutions, Women's League Conference, oye! Pasi nevatengezi. Allow me once again to thank the Secretary for Legal Affairs, Comrade Cecilia Ndubiwa, for ably presenting the Women's League resolutions, which were very rich and are indeed a true reflection of the desires of the Women's League and their aspiration. It is a document which will remain a point of reference in the future. Monotigonera, madzimai. In that regard, let me now invite Comrade Tsitigezi, the chairperson of National and Central, to move a motion for the adoption of the Women's League Conference resolution. Comrade Tsitsi, you have the floor.
Thank you. Vamnangagwa oye! ZanuPf oye! Women's League oye! Pasi nokupanduka. The President and First Secretary of the party, Comrade Dr. Edie Mnangagwa, and the First Lady, Dr. Auxilia Mnangagwa. Vice President and Second Secretary of the party, Comrade General Retired Dr. C.G.N. Chiwenga, Vice President and Second Secretary of the party, Comrade Colonel Retired KCD Mohadi, the National Chairman, Comrade OCZ Muchinguri Kashiri, the Secretary for Administration, Comrade Dr. O.M. Mupov in absentia, the Secretary for Finance, Comrade P.A. Chinamasa, the Secretary for Commissariat, Comrade Dr. M. Bima, The Secretary for Women's Affairs, Comrade M.M. Chinomona, allow me to say all protocols observed. I, Tsitsi Gezi, Chairwoman of the Women's League in Mashonaland Central Province, do hereby propose for the adoption of the resolutions of the 7th National Women's League Conference as tabled today, 24th June 2022. I thank you.
Chinyarara itipedze, handichabvumiri kuimba. Tatenda Comrade Tsitsi Gezi, waita propose a motion. Allow me to now call upon Comrade Constance Shamu, Chairperson of Mashonaland West Province, to second the motion.
Pamberi ZanuPf na baba wedu wa Mnangagwa 2023 pasi nemhandu. The President and First Secretary of the party, Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, and the First Lady, Dr. Auxilia Mnangagwa in absentia, Vice President and Second Secretary of the party, Comrade General Retired Dr. C.G. D.N. Chiwenga, Vice President and Second Secretary of the party, Comrade Colonel Retired KCD Mohadi, the National Chairman, Comrade OCZ Mchinguri Kashiri, Comrade Dr. O.M. Pofu, Secretary for Admin in absentia, Secretary for Finance, Comrade P.H. Namasa, the National Political Commissar, Comrade Dr. M. Bima, the Secretary for Women's Affairs, Comrade M.M. Chinomona, all protocols observed. I, Constance Shamu, Chairwoman of Mashonaland West Province, second the motion as proposed.
Totenda Comrade Shamu na Comrade Gezi propose a motion yekuti ti adopte a resolution, a women's league for this conference. It is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to declare the resolutions of the Women's League Conference adopted. My comrades, zvese zvinotanga zvakanaka zvinofanira kupera zvakanaka, kunyanya kana zvakatungamirirwa naJehovha. Ombererai zvenyu. Tanga takatungamirirwa nemudzodziwa wedu waMwari Shumba Murambwi. Neutungamiri hwese hwanga hwakatitsigira kubva nezuro kusvikira nanhasi. Tinoda kukutendai vakuru vedu. Your Excellency, I can declare with confidence that the Second Republic under your leadership is safe and in good hands. During the past 2 days, Your Excellency, we have had a magnificent time. We thank the Almighty for such a successful conference. However, as I have indicated, all things, no matter how good, will eventually come to an end. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I now have the honor to invite our president, who is the first of the Second Republic, an astute leader, a Pan-Africanist par excellency, a game changer, a strategist, and a pacifier. This great man is none other than His Excellency, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa. I humbly invite you, Your Excellency, the President and First Secretary of our Revolutionary Party, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, to close our conference.